Today I have the great pleasure of speaking with Anne Sheehan, and Anne is the Director of Vodafone Business UK, and today we'll chat about technology for good, supporting the way we connect, work, innovate and live. Hi Anne, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you for inviting me along. It's great. I can see some faces, not all, but...
Not to worry, Anne. So Anne, let's kick off. First question for you today is, where are you located and what's been keeping you sane over the last few months?
So I'm located in my office in my house in Rathfarnham in Dublin, and it's quite a joy because actually, as you said in the intro, I run the enterprise business for the UK. So I've been doing a commute for 3 years. So leaving on a Sunday night, back on a Friday night. So it's been incredible to be able to do my job. So I've been able to run a 2 billion business from Rathfarnham, and it's been perfect actually. What's been keeping me sane is not being on an airplane. Honestly, I pinch myself on a Sunday night and go, I don't have to get on an airplane. So yeah, it's been good.
Great, Anne. So that's definitely very intriguing. So Anne, you are the Director of Vodafone Business UK, as you said. So can you please tell our listeners about this role and what makes you so passionate about what you do?
Yeah, so basically, what does the Director of Business mean? So it means I run everything in relation to B2B, so everything from our very small customers to large. It's quite an exciting role in that I bring products to market, I do the branding, I run the sales teams, the technical teams, so everything in terms of sell, build, run. The business that I run is 2.5 billion, it's 50% of the overall business for Vodafone in the UK, and it's the largest enterprise business globally for Vodafone. Why I'm in telco, so I was with IBM and I moved to telco, is I'm really passionate about technology for good, and never has that been demonstrated, I think, more so than in COVID times, in terms of the difference technology's made to how we work, how we communicate, how we connect, and how we innovate.
Well, so you've spoken there, Anne, about technology for good. And so maybe you can give us some highlights, I suppose, of tech for good during I suppose, the last couple of months in COVID times.
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite incredible. So maybe I'll just start more kind of a human level, because I think technology, and I say this to my team, has really been a beacon of hope. If you think about it's given us that human touch and connection. So think about the amount of people that have been able to talk to families, friends, all the laughter it's brought, in terms of, us communicating. I have elderly parents, over Facebook and FaceTime and all the rest of it. So I think, I didn't think, we often don't talk about technology being great for that human connection, but I think COVID has really demonstrated. That's the first. I think the second is the digitalization, particularly of small to medium businesses. So we have so many organizations, both Ireland, the UK, around Europe, that didn't have a website, didn't feel the need to be digital, and were just propelled into this digital world in order to stay alive. And I think we've seen the digitalization of small to medium business increase probably 400% in the last 7 months. The next is kind of all the mission critical services. It's kept supply chains going. From a UK perspective, we've kept the NHS going, HSE from an Ireland perspective, and we've kept the courts going. So everything, in terms of mission critical services, sometimes we don't think about, is powered by technology. And the last is kind of tackling issues such as isolation, loneliness, and huge amount of work, mental health being done to, really address these issues, which have been really, I guess, magnified during the COVID world, and using technology to help, again, get that connection has just been mind-blowing.
I'm sure we'll have an awful lot of questions around that from our audience, and please do remember to submit your questions via the chat function at the bottom of the screen. So, and just a last question for you in our 5-minute chat. The healthcare section, and you mentioned the NHS, has been under so much scrutiny more than ever before. So maybe you can expand on the use of 5G and technology in the healthcare section.
I mean, it is probably the most exciting time to be working with any healthcare body in any country globally. Prior to COVID, we were all talking about this future vision, remote surgery, AR, the use of 5G, but it was very conceptual. and actually the adoption was quite low, mainly because a lot of health sectors felt that actually the user adoption would be low. Next thing, we hit COVID, and let me give you some examples of what we're doing. As we speak now, we are using drone technology in the UK to bring specialised organs to islands off Scotland. We've connected ambulances active in Manchester, Birmingham, and basically, I mean, game-changing, providing real live emergency care with patients in the back of the ambulance, connected live to A&E. And we've seen, you know, in April alone, 70% of all GP interactions were done remotely, so remote consultations, again, all powered by the use of technology, mainly 4G. And probably two of the ones that are the most exciting for me, outside of the drone and connected ambulance, is really, you know, work that we've been doing with Coventry University, using 5G now to do remote teaching and learning. So they're one of the you know, the best colleges for them, where they do medical training in the UK. And basically they've used 5G augmented and virtual reality to allow live learning from the operating room, basically with artificial intelligence. So they're now teaching students all over the world. And the other is a company that we partnered with, which was set up by a surgeon in the UK, which is Proximy, where we're doing basically remote surgery. So let me bring that to life. So there's an example of a guy in his 30s who had a really bad tumor diagnosed kind of on a Monday. And by the end of that week, it needed basically a surgeon that was based in Florida. Using the power of 5G and the Proximy platform, that surgeon was able to guide remotely the operation, which was done in Manchester, to remove the tumor. I mean, it's quite incredible. And it's really testing 5G, because 5G has always been about high speed, low latency. So what does that mean? You don't get any delay. And, you know, there's been a lot of hype, a lot of talk, you know, a lot of controversy around 5G. But as an industry, we see it just really, like, the use cases that we've experienced during COVID is quite incredible.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you so much. And actually, there's been tons of questions coming in, and that's exactly one question that's come in, is about, you know, these ideas of how does Vodafone counteract the nonsense conspiracy theories around 5G. So you've touched on that, but maybe you might want to expand a little bit more.
I think, I mean, you know, we probably one of the leaders in the UK specifically on 5G, but if we take it as an industry as a whole, so we look to the WHO, we look to all the industry bodies, and they give us advice on what's safe and what's not safe technology. So nothing has come out of any of the major bodies to prove that there is anything wrong with 5G or anything that we should be concerned about. I think it's been a very challenging time for the industry around 5G, because obviously you have you know, a part of society that disagree with that, and obviously their opinion is their opinion. I think it has been challenging. We've seen, and you can read about this, damage done to masts, and let me bring that to life. We had damage done to a mast near Birmingham, which brought down Birmingham Hospital in the middle of COVID. So I think what our job is, you know, as I said, there is no evidence, and we follow WHO and all the major bodies, and we just got to power on. And, you know, we can see the technology for good, and, you know, only, you know, the time will demonstrate that. So we try and just, you know, keep going. But it's, you know, every telco globally is working on 5G. So it's not just a Vodafone thing, and we can see, honestly, when we looked at 3G, so 3G was really about voice, 4G was about data, 5G is just a game changer. The speed is incredible. And, you know, at the beginning, it was really much about gaming and, you know, more consumer angle. Actually, my view is it's far more pertinent for enterprise, and the use cases that we can see will be more around business more so than consumer.
Okay, so that's actually a question that's come in, as was the difference between 4G and 5G. But just, so you think 4G was more kind of for the consumer level, whereas 5G is...
it's so 4G is really about data, right? So I mean, all of us, be it if you're enterprise or consumer, it's all about just bundles of data, fast data. What 5G does, it brings speeds that we've never seen before, and it gets rid of that latency. So that, like, so for example, if you're doing remote surgery, there is no time for latency. You know, if you were a surgeon dialing in from the States, operating on somebody in Dublin, you don't have time to miss a millisecond or a second or whatever the case may be. And that's what 5G does. It also has the ability to connect millions and millions of connections. And what we're seeing with businesses, particularly during COVID, when you've got, the majority of the workforce operating remotely, is data is the kind of the heart of the new digital organization. So the ability to monitor things, to have insights, to have that control in your business when people aren't sitting in front of you. And that's what 5G does. It allows us millions of connections, high speed, no latency. And we can see loads of adoption, like Ford have a manufacturing plant in Northern England. They just digitalized the whole of their manufacturing plant using 5G. And the speeds that they're doing up and down to Microsoft Cloud, AWS is phenomenal.
So actually, so a question along those lines, but so your Coventry University, so you're talking about them using AR and VR, but do you see more universities adopting this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Coventry have been always kind of at the forefront of technology, so they're great to experiment. So when we started looking at 5G, 2 years ago, I mean, we're looking at 6G now, right? Which is,
Really?
quite exciting or depressing. I don't know which. We're trying to monetize 5G first. But so they had been looking at this, and what's quite incredible, and I had been working with them, right, giving them access to early stage technology. But what's been incredible about COVID is people's aspirations and thought about what they wanted to create in the future suddenly landed now. I mean, overnight they were like, well, a lot of their students are global. They couldn't travel, and they need to keep their operation going. And literally overnight, they just put what had been a thought and test what was in the lab into operation, and it's working fantastic. So I think what it has opened up is a whole new world of people being far more curious. I think what we want to do with technology is solve problems. So I think there's the traditional selling, which is you've got an issue and I sell you something, fine, right? But actually, my view on technology for good is, what are the problems facing various different industries? How can we collaborate together to use the technology, for example, the telcos bring, married with maybe something that Google, Amazon, whatever bring, the challenges that the industry has, and work together in collaboration. And I think on an emotional and a cultural level, what I saw COVID do was break down those barriers. We had to get the NHS 111, which is the line you ring in the UK if you had COVID. I mean, we took nearly 1 million calls per minute. I mean, it's quite phenomenal what happened. Why? We worked together, ourselves, with government, with third-party organizations. All the kind of process was out the door. And when we had one common goal, which is people need to get through to this phone live and we need to save lives, right? Everybody worked together. And I think when we think about planet, we think about, technology for good, we've got to work together now and put the kind of, P&L outside the door a little bit and see how we can learn the best of COVID and bring that forward.
That's very inspirational. And actually, there's a lot of questions coming in about, so you've kind of touched on it in terms of the enterprise and collaboration, but in terms of, I suppose, consumer user adoption, that's also changed during COVID, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, going back to what I'd said about citizen adoption of services, right? I think that's always been a barrier, particularly probably in health and the digitalization of public sector. Will people really adopt this? Would people really do remote consultations with a GP? Would people really, have somebody operate on them remotely? And I think we had a lot of discussions with the NHS around that as a barrier. Suddenly a global pandemic hits and those barriers just literally get removed, right? There's just a force that says this is the way it needs to be. And actually end users have been incredible. As citizens, we've all adopted. I mean, if I had said to all of you, we'll be working remotely, I won't be on a flight for 7 months, I can run a large business from Dublin, I would have said, never, absolutely no way. And we've done it. So I'm super optimistic, and I'm an optimistic person by nature anyway, but I'm so optimistic about the future. I think we can really tackle problems like climate by harnessing ourselves together and just driving the power of technology just for good. If we can focus on for good, and then, obviously there's always a downside to everything, but we can tackle that as well.
And actually that just leads perfectly into, I suppose, my last question, and apologies because we've completely run out of time. Our 15 minutes are up, but what do you, so you mentioned 6G, so I hadn't even heard of 6G, but so scary enough, I didn't even know what 5G was until I started talking to you. But what does the future look like for mobile phone technology or integrated mobile technology? What does that look like?
I think it's very exciting in our industry, because I think often we can be viewed as just kind of the dumb mobile or the dumb pipe a little bit, yeah. And actually, I think what we've seen now is the power of connectivity, the sheer power of what connectivity can do, and also the new technologies. So, how we can analyze data, use connectivity to help us do it, like 5G, all the rest of it. And why I'm optimistic is I think we can really harness this to solve problems of the future. I know I've said it a few times on this session, but I think, getting us all to work together, industries to work together to say, what are the challenges we're facing? What do we need to overcome? And using that technology. And I think suddenly the telco industry has had a newfound people have just literally suddenly gone, oh my God, we need this connectivity, we need this technology. And I think for us, it's given us new energy, new focus, and probably a new place at the table. Yeah. So I think we'll see the technology, telco companies veer more into tech. I think you'll see a convergence of telco and tech over the next few years.
And that kind of actually interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary collaboration and integration of fields is music to our ears in UCD Discovery. So wonderful. Yeah. And it's been absolutely a pleasure speaking to you today. Unfortunately, we're completely out of time. So sincere apologies to everybody whose questions I didn't get to. Just wanted to say an absolutely huge thanks to Anne. Thank you so much, Anne. Fascinating discussion. It was absolutely fascinating discussion today. Thank you so much. And thanks everyone for joining in. We have our last Zoom for Thought in the 2020 series next Tuesday. So please do check us out on zoomforthought.ie and see our list of upcoming speakers, and we'll kick off again in 2021. So lastly, a great pleasure. Thanks so much again, Anne.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And thanks everyone for joining in. Have an absolutely great day, and see you all next week on Zoom for Thought.
Bye.
Bye.